Welcome to What Could Have Been Bionicle, Part 2. Today is going to be really special because one of the big mysteries in my mind when it comes to Bionicle is a question that I want to start out by asking you all. All the masks on Matanui, all these pure, pristine masks that were ready for Matoran or Tor to use, where did they come from? There's so much Bionicle lore and storytelling that I'm sort of moving in the sketches before all that came to be. So this is like, maybe it's gonna, some of the things I say go up against what you have seen other places, but this is not to say that is wrong. This is just to say, could there be another structure behind the whole thing? What I showed you last time was sketches of what Bionicle could have been, and I think one of the biggest thing was that what stands on this piece of stone, and never use the Mask of Time. Somebody used the Mask of Time. How could this happen? It has brought about so many big changes on Matanui, and somebody went back and had that effect. Or maybe it was like that from the beginning. I don't know. But case is that I want to show you a drawing I did really early in the concept, and it was sort of to get hold of the whole sort of what could this be. Okay, I want to show you this drawing because it was sort of to say, okay, what could happen that could bring all these changes about. And if you look at this one, this is sort of the plot of the whole Generation 2 or Bionicle in like you know it, but like you've never seen it before. Imagine that all the different struggles and fights have been had, and time has passed, and the Tor has managed to store the one thing that can never be used, Mask of Time, in this giant column of Protodermis. It's in the center of that, there's all the warnings around it that it can never be used. One day the whole thing cracks open, and when they look inside where the original Mask of Time should be, there's only the sort of outer shape. The mask is gone. Disappeared, taken, or has moved by itself. As you know from the other Bionicle stories, masks can take on characters on their own and travel in time and space. Mostly in in space, of course, but time and space is sort of the same here. And I want to make a drawing. Imagine that you have Matanui here. This is the time we know with the big spirit under the island, and so on. And now I'm gonna do something with the paper, because imagine this is now, and this is actually like this is the plane we are traveling in now. So if you imagine, this is actually a well. It's a well of time, and if you imagine that well of time doing like this, and there's a contact time-wise, if you can travel through this well of time, you can actually turn time back to another plane. But I don't know if you can go back again. But there are these planes where the whole thing shifts, and one have actually opened one of these portals or wells with the Mask of Time. So there is one of these opened back to Matanui, because Mask of Time has been used. And this place is somewhere in the new location, where Mask of Time has been stolen. And now somebody, maybe a Turaga, has to sacrifice him or herself to go back through this tunnel to follow the taker of Mask of Time to actually set the past right. And that is quite a sacrifice, because the Turaga will have to be melted into a pure plate of Protodermis. So all the information is in there, thrown into this well at the center point, and pass through, and then land somewhere on the old Matanui. But just imagine, could this be the place where all the original masks that we found on the island, all the pure metal Protodermis masks, where did they come from? Could they have been sent through for just one of them to be picked up by a hero or a Matoran to take up this challenge? And one of these new heroes goes through the passage, comes back, and then Matanui is something totally different. And there I want to go to the drawings again, because we had the idea that it was a totally different Matanui you came back to. You had the monsters of the different elements, and I just want to find that drawing. Okay, this sketch is really rough, but this was an idea for a wide key visual, like a widescreen one, so we get a lot of room for the different creatures and so on. We actually had an underwater creature here, like a elemental monster of the sea, and the dinosaur and the snake, and maybe a giant spider and so on. And then you have all these Matorans that have been captured, or they're hanging as bait to lure the Toa in when they arrive. And I could make a reference to something you might know, the elemental monsters of the Robo riders. I just found these drawings, which is quite funny. But also the boxes of the Slizer creatures, where you have these monsters in the background. Okay, but going back to the theory of that the true heroes are the one that sacrifice their present day to go back to fix stuff that is wrong in the past. And it's sort of the idea of a Maturo that goes through the tunnel to become a mask of life and reignite this big robot. Here they're going back and have the same sacrifice to go back to have a new adventure, actually, and that could be pretty interesting, I think, because that island that they're coming back to, that's everything you know, but it's also completely new, and nobody knows if the original legend is actually as it is or as it was. But imagine those possibilities, because if you imagine that all the Matorans or the Matoran or the Turaga and Toa, they sense that something is wrong in a different place of this Bionicle universe. So they go through this well of time, and then, they could basically end up anywhere. And now I'm saying something that's really controversial. What if one of those Matoran, Turaga or Toa that went through there actually ended in a spot where they could start building something that could be the Hero Factory? Because they are out there in a new location and they need to go up against forces of evil. So they will have to face all kinds of different situations and creatures and so on. So that was why all these drawings you saw around what could the new stuff be. Let's go back to another basic, which is the redesigned Bionicle logo. Because there's also a thread here where you see, what do you imagine this blue hole is? That is the well of time, basically. So the idea was that the logo actually contained that little secret. And as you see the dust on coming out of the portal or the well of time, and that actually has sort of the shape of Matanui. It's also on this stone background, which means that it has the ancient, but it comes from the future. So it actually tries to combine these two different styles. And what would happen if this very modern character landed in this really natural world? And that was the idea of this time traveler or new kind of character that was wearing the mask of time in sort of these two parts and travel through this tech jungle to find energy and so on, and maybe also went into a cave and had to sort of survive in a much more sort of like cave people in the ancient time, but now they're just advanced machines, but they basically still have the same needs for shelter and energy and building culture and tribes and so on. So this was an idea of saying, no, this mechanical being is also out sort of trying to survive in new areas, and actually goes right back to the original drawing of this mechanical robot landing on Matanui. So it's rediscovering the legend, but basically with much more at stake, because you actually don't know if the other Toas are ready. You don't know if there is an altar. You don't know if the Matoran are there to help you and guide you, and you don't know if all the masks of power are lying around, or if that's just a myth from the old books. So you could be just a lonely robot stranded on some beach somewhere where you have to find out your own way. And of course, the mystery will unfold from there. This has basically been like a story, sort of a rant or a lot of different plot points thrown up in the air. And all these drawings and all these ideas just goes to show you that nothing of this has been sort of finished. It's a lot of different parts or story bricks or ideas that can be molded. And the greatest thing is the process where they are not finished, where you still have this mystery and not quite sure what could be just around the corner. And making these kinds of concepts and making them work and be exciting, it is almost like going on the adventure of the tour. And I think that is the core of world building and storytelling, that you're actually going on the journey yourself. So let's just say, if you go in on some of these ideas or other ideas, you are basically setting out on a Bionicle journey, which is amazing, because that is what it's all about. It's your creativity, it's your ideas, and it's sharing them and building upon them and getting energy and inspiration from them. So this was what Bionicle could have been, part 2, and a lot of different drawings from the big pile, and there's much more. And just to say, all the stories of the original Bionicle, they are in a big pile as well. So of course we will make something about the original creation of Bionicle and all the thoughts that went into that, all the sketches and drawings and thoughts. But until then, and other videos about a lot of exciting things, the quest for future creativity goes on. Hopefully very soon. See you again on the channel. Take care out there and be creative. Bye.